Josh, thank you. You have issued this lengthy statement, which I guess in my own words essentially says, if I was to summarise it, a fine event ran out of control. How do you explain what went on, and were you there yourself last night?
Yes, I was there. I was one of the co-chairs of the rally. Thanks for having me on, by the way. Well, firstly, there were thousands and thousands of people came out from all different backgrounds to show our support for the basic freedoms of Palestinian people and to support their right to defend themselves as well, and to oppose what's going on right now, which is the horrific wholesale bombing of the Gaza Strip. And so it was very important for us to come out and protest. There'll be more protests across Australia and around the world in coming days to stand with the Palestinian people. Because this is not just an issue that began 3 or 4 days ago, and that's part of the problem in how this is being discussed. There's a whole context here, there's a whole history here. Israel's been at war with the Palestinian people effectively for 75 years. They've been at war with the people of Gaza for that entire time, and there's been, of course, a horrific siege on the Gaza Strip for the last 16 years. Sure. Which has been repeatedly bombed. So we had a big protest last night. Thousands of people came out, including, it's important to emphasise, including members of the Jewish community who are part of our protest, because there are many Jewish people who, of course, support the freedom for Palestinians and don't agree with the policies of the State of Israel. So we held a very successful, peaceful protest that marched from Town Hall down to the Opera House. Of course, we wanted to march to the Opera House because of the terrible and hypocritical stance taken by the government to light it up with the Israeli flag. They haven't, in the last 75 years of oppression, ever lit up the Opera House with the Palestinian flag. Yeah. So we marched down there, and it was a wonderful, peaceful protest. As we say in our statement, right at the end, there was a separate event organised by others. There was a tiny group of people who came and for a couple of minutes did chant a despicable anti-Semitic chant. We've made it very clear they do not represent anything to do with our movement. They're not welcome. They were told to leave immediately. Ours has always been an anti-racist movement, and we condemn all forms of racism, including anti-Semitism.
All right. So, Josh, you're saying, in effect, that you, or a fringe element, infiltrated this protest that, moved down to the Opera House. Have you made any efforts today to identify by whom? These are people who are chanting, F the Jews and so on, just to be frank, for those not familiar with just how offensive some of those statements were, just trying to give some context to that. Have you made any attempt to establish who they were, where they came from?
I mean, I don't know who they were. What we can do is make it very clear, as we have, that this has nothing to do with the movement for a free Palestine, And as I made it clear, we have a very long history of standing with all different communities against the State of Israel's policies. So that's what we stand for. We'll make it clear again at our next protest on Sunday that those views are not welcome. And it's important to reiterate, this was like a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of a % of the crowd of people who were there. And they weren't part of the original protest. They came later and so on. So we don't condone that at all. We condemn that in the strongest possible terms. Yep. And as I said, we take a stand against all forms of racism. That's what the fight for a free Palestine is about. I'll note that your previous guest referred to the Palestinians as animals in the segment you just had. You didn't challenge him on that, interestingly.
No, please respond. I'll just explain, Josh.
Sure.
That was a startling statement, but I was aware that we were going to be speaking to you and others in the program, and I knew it would be challenged. This is the sort of heightened language that I guess we're getting at the moment.
Sure. Well, then we should challenge it. Let's challenge it now. He referred to the Palestinians as animals. The Defence Minister of Israel has referred to the people, all of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, as animals, and they're undergoing a mass campaign of bombing in a strip where 2.3 million people live. They've cut off food and water now supplies, including electricity, fuel, medical supplies, and the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared, in his words, he wants to turn the Gaza Strip into a desert island. 2.3 million people live in the Gaza Strip. So that is a call for horrific war crimes. They're already very clearly war crimes by anyone's definition in terms of the collective punishment being meted out to the people of Gaza. And where does our government stand on this question? They're supporting it. That shows why we need to come out and protest.
All right. Just on the events of last night, when was the decision made to move from the Town Hall down to the Opera House? And was there any police liaison involved with that, Josh?
Yeah, totally. Well, as soon as we heard that the government planned to light up the Opera House with the Israeli flag, that's when a lot of people started suggesting we should march our protest down there. So that's what we did, and we were in contact with the police all day. We spoke to it with them. They helped to manage that protest to go down there peacefully. There were no problems at all, so yeah, we marched down there and that's what we did.
Okay, and you've made the point in our conversation here, and I think elsewhere, Josh, that we, the group, oppose Israel, a racist state, but have worked with Jewish activists over a long period of time. I think you also said some were there last night. Did they tell you today that they feel unsafe? What has been the residual effect on those people who were present?
I've spoken to a couple of people, and their understanding, which is the case, is that this was a small minority of people. They haven't said to me that they feel unsafe. The people that I've spoken to, they all plan to be there at the rally on Sunday. Some of them will be speaking at the protests on Sunday, to make that point again. So yes, I don't think this is an issue it's an issue that we need to confront, but it's not at all the case that Jewish people have anything to fear from our movement for a free Palestine. As I said, Jewish people, I would argue, along with all people, should be part of this protest movement, should be part of this movement to demand an end to the apartheid racist regime that is the state of Israel and freedom for Palestinians. That applies to everyone. This is an issue of humanity and human rights. It's not an issue of religion or anything else.
No, understood. Josh Lees from the Palestine Action Group, thanks so much for coming in and bringing that perspective. Yes, and just please be assured once again that we weren't going to leave unchecked the assertions of the acting ambassador. So thank you for joining that conversation too.
Thank you very much.